Alright, so here we are today with Iron Man 294, an issue by Len Kaminski and Judy Ops. At this rate, I am morphing into a Len Kaminski shill channel. But the thing is, this was a writer I didn't rate and didn't like for ages. But I am giving him another shot because he impressed me with some Satan's Son comics. But also he didn't respond to me on Facebook, so I never reviewed his final issue on Satan's Son, because I did want to know something from him about it. Anyway, this is Iron Man. His run on Iron Man. We looked at a War Machine last week, so here is an Iron Man. Iron Man 294. I also go through phases with comics. I would imagine most readers with more than 2 or 3 favourites go through these phases where they're more into whatever. In my case, I'm dead set on DC and Stir Fry Squadron at the minute, but something from Marvel that I can muster some interest in reading is these Len Kaminski Iron Mans I have got, because I want to see if they're any good. This issue is not listed as such. The cover is missing the logo and the Nabisco box in the top right corner. But this is an Affinity Cluedo tie-in issue, and it would probably be better if it wasn't, so maybe they left it off the cover for a reason. We have Iron Man in space. We open very similar to that one Marvel Action Hour issue, with A.I.M in space. In this, he's not even wearing his space armour. What's the point of having a space armour if you don't wear it for space? The armour he is wearing is the Telepresence armour. The Telepresence armour is nobody's favourite Iron Man armour. It only lasted for 10 issues. It always felt like the stopgap armour, waiting for a better design to come along. The Telepresence armour was what he was wearing on his updated profile in the Master Edition, his second profile in that series. If they had held it for a few months, they could have done his much better modular armour. He is in space to repair one of his satellites. We have some nice art by Judy Ops. And Iron Man, he has a TV built into his armour now, and he watches some hot women instructional fitness videos. But then that gives him traumatic flashbacks to his own physical therapy. Maybe he should have just watched Babe Station instead. You Americans won't know what Babe Station is, will you? It's this televised softcore porn thing. It's like a shopping network, but with boobs. It's like titty streaming, but on TV. And people phone up to get the women to, like, do stuff or say their name. Iron Man, he is still recovering from when that one Babe Station screen talent shot him, causing him to be unable to ever walk again. He's okay now though, he can walk again. He's also recovering from his last faked death. That is probably the more important thing than when he was disabled for like a week. There is a sudden, unexpected solar flare, and there is nothing that Iron Man can do about it. One of the worst things about the telepresence armour is that it was a remote unit. He's not actually in the armour, but the story and the comics will love to pretend that he is, because there's absolutely no stakes if he's not. He's safe back on Earth. They do say that his mind is uplinked in a way wherein he would die if the Iron Man unit was destroyed. But that never happens. And it's just not dramatic to have a story with a man in a room controlling a suit. Iron Man is saved from being done in by this flare by Enola Holmes. Here comes our Affinity Cluedo crossover. This is meant to be a golden-skinned character, and she looks no differently coloured to all the other regular people. I think that is more the effect of the printing though. Enola Holmes has come to offer Iron Man a place among her converts. He declines, so she storms off. There is a bit more to it, but I need to get into the backstory. Enola Holmes is the villain of Affinity Cluedo. If Alan Moriarty is the evil side of Alan Watson, Enola Holmes is meant to be the good half. The good half is flat out evil in its pursuit of good. At the start of the crossover, she appeared before half of the Marvel Universe and essentially brainwashed them. But in story, the idea is that these were all the heroes who had some form of faith or greater belief. She exploited their... This is a story's words, not mine. She exploited their weakness and made them all cult-like zealots. The ones that she didn't appear before, that she didn't recruit, are those that don't believe in a god or anything greater. Iron Man is very obviously among them. He is one of the de facto leaders during the crisis. I didn't like Affinity Cluedo. It is a half-baked idea, and at the end, it's just so Thanius can defeat another quasi-god level threat. The Affinity Cluedo tie-ins make a stronger case for it not just being a bad story, but being a really bad crossover idea. The past two Affinity crossovers, they had their weak tie-in issues too, and there was a lot of editorial miscommunication or tie-in writers not understanding the crossover plot at all. A lot of editors not having the full or correct details about the crossover. Well, Affinity Cluedo is only that. There are no Affinity Cluedo tie-ins that are either good or matter or even seem to have vital information about the story that they are tying into. There was no recruitment pitch. Enola Holmes just straight up appeared before half the heroes and took mental control of them by exploiting the part of their brain that has belief in a god, an ideal, or something like that. Appearing before Iron Man and trying to convince him to join is at odds with all the others, and it provides further problems in that Iron Man, from his issues, now has knowledge of Enola Holmes that he lacks in the main series. On the other hand, at least he is not fighting a leaky pipe. Maybe you expected this straight away, but the Affinity Cluedo crossover tie-in, on top of it not working, is totally tacked on. You can skip those pages and it hardly changes what we have here. There is a lot of cutting back and forth between space and then flashbacks. I think they needed to sneak in some Robert Downton Abbey Jr. downtime stuff, and they didn't know how else to do it when he is mentally in outer space. It also allows for more of the "you're probably wondering how I got here" shite. No, I'm not wondering. Iron Man has had operational satellites since like the 80s. It is the most understandable thing ever to me that he would go up to check on his satellite in one issue. What has happened is that some nanotech experiments went bad on the satellite and it killed the crew up there. And that is where Iron Man comes in. He is exploring the space station, and this stuff is pretty good. The nanotech didn't just kill the crew, it consumed them and it learnt from them. It adapted their intellect and their macrocellular organization. It used their bodies as templates with which to accelerate their own evolution. I'm just reading from the page here. I like these parts though, the actual story, I dig it. We have obviously a lot of influence from Alien and Aliens. And this page, unfortunately, reminds you that Robert Downton Abbey Jr. isn't in the armour, so that deflates a lot of the excitement and tension. They could have even used that to its advantage. That Robert Downton Abbey Jr., he could just unplug to save his own mind, but then he would be leaving his advanced armour to become part of this nanotech nightmare. I will also point out this was a year before the Borg Covenant. However, we had already had Borg shit in Excellent Men by this point. Very close, mind you. We're talking maybe months apart. We have a notable first appearance right here. A lot of people don't know that it even comes from the comics, or a comic. It is Iron Man's proton cannon, as made famous by the Capcom fighting games and Marvel vs. Capcom 2. I am pleased to announce that we are finally doing a What Else Was Out segment, and it is not the late 90s. This checklist here is succinct enough that I'll use it, and I only have, I think, 6 comics here. The 80s Marvel ones would be like 10 minutes of video. They also do provide very, very brief descriptions here of the issues, which helps because if I try to remember what issue 90 of Summit was, I would be off by 1. What I have here is Cable Man 4. That is when he returns to the main timeline, I think. Last one, where he has that horrible goatee too. Captain America 418, the D-Man issue. I will more than surely review that one day. But if any of these that I say I have you want me to review, comment down below. I have Dartboard 30, which is an Affinity Cluedo crossover, and it reminds me that the next part of this story will list the fucking pipe issue here. The dartboard issue where they fight a pipe. If you're unaware, it is a thing I mention loads. It's something that I honestly measure all tie-in issues against. One of Dartboard's Affinity Cluedo tie-ins has all the Marvel heroes together, and they have to work alongside each other to mend a loose pipe. I'm not exaggerating or twisting things. It is the absolute bottom of the barrel when it comes to a crossover tie-in. Issue 30 here isn't great either, but it's easily better than the other one. The next thing listed that I have is Seaman 41. I quite like that issue. Some weird Shane McGowan art, but it is a Seaman versus War Machine thing. I kind of want to review that. Maybe it's because it is the Pogues' time of the year. Uncanny Excellent Men 303 must be one of Tom Beavort's favourite issues because it is when Magic Girl dies. Alan Watson Chronicles number 2. Important part of Affinity Cluedo. That's also the issue where we find out unceremoniously who the other member of the Affinity Guard is. And lastly is Spider-Man's Web 103, which is part of Maximus Carnage, one of the shite parts written by Brett Kavanaugh. I was even off by 1 with my count. I had 7. There's 2 of us I'll point out. I might have them but don't remember. West Coast Avengers 97. That is an Affinity Cluedo tie-in. That also makes no sense. By the way, something you will notice is that the majority of books that crossed over with Affinity Cluedo, they were all coming from the same 2 editors. And they were 2 bad editors, 2 of the worst. And neither of them have I made cry yet. Hulk Annual 18 would be the other one that I could have. My Hulk collection is patchwork after Todd McFarlane's run. It's just random issues that I either liked the cover of or that I read and I didn't mind. Some other stuff which I don't have includes more Affinity Cluedo tie-ins with Luke Cage's issue 17. He fights Arthur Blackwood from Thor. That Luke Cage's series always seems more appealing than it is. I tried reading it and I gave up after 3 or 4 issues. Daredevil is embarking on his fall from grace. He is going to debut his 90s black armor, and his stories are going to be incomprehensible, beginning here with issue 319. We have got Affinity Cluedo ongoing, and as the Spider-Man issue showed, we have another crossover there, and if that wasn't enough, we had Midnight Mascara over in Night Stabbers 10. Midnight Mascara was around the time I would suggest you jump off the Ghost Driver and Midnight Suns books, if you hadn't already. It's only going to get worse after Midnight Mascara. Call it quits there, and you at least can say those books had some ideas or promise. I'm skipping some that I don't feel are either worth mentioning or that I know nothing about or have nothing to say about. We will end with No Man 16, Fabio Nicieza's No Man series. This is the issue where he meets the real Ed Gambit after battling his double gagger in Affinity Wars a year earlier. So anyway, after some fighting, this is our big composite entity created by the nanotech, the Technovore. The Technovore only appears in this two-parter, but it has a surprising amount of usage in other media. The main one I know is that there is an Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes episode, Season 2, Episode 3, probably off by one. It was the episode that introduced War Machine. I think one thing that I need to judge this issue against is the comics of 1993. And 1993 was when stuff was starting to get stale or circle the drain. 1993 is kinda when I think people started realising things weren't good at Marvel. Like you would be reading Affinity Cluedo, anticipating it to be good, and then you realise, actually, it wasn't even just okay. It was quite bad. We were also nearing the end of Tom Falcon's era as editor-in-chief, so his illusion of change approach was really showing its true face. By this point, most readers were seeing and noticing that things that were or had changed were now changing back or resetting. The change was being erased. 1993, I don't think it was a good year for Marvel. The cracks were beginning to not just show, but even overwhelm. By those 1993 standards, I think this is alright. There is the main part of it, which I find enjoyable, and then it's like the rest of the issue is dragging it down. I chose to talk about Affinity Cluedo in this one, so part 2 can be where I talk about the artwork by Judy Opps. Catch you on the flip side, dude meisters. 7 comics on that checklist up.